Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar with Good and Fugly. I am Layla, one of the campaign managers here at Birchal. And just before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land I'm based on today. Birchal is based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. Birchal is working with Good and Fugly on a crowdsourced funding offer. The information and discussion in this webinar is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as advice or as a recommendation to invest. Please always consider the offer document and the general CSF risk warning. Everything is going to be available on birchal.com and do your own research. Now, how today's webinar is going to run. Richard and Jonathan are going to take us through a presentation of the entire business that is going to go around for around 25 minutes, and we're going to learn everything about what is Good and Fugly, the numbers they have achieved so far, and about their plans after this raise. Then after that, we're going to switch to a Q&A session. If you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you can see a little Q&A bubble. If you have a question during the session, please pop it in the Q&A box, and we will answer that at the end. Lastly, that we are recording today's webinar, so if you have to jump off early, a recording will be sent around. If this is your first time investing, and if you have any questions about Birchal or the investment opportunity, please let me know in the Q&A, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. That's it for me. You're not here to see me, so Rich, floor is all yours.
Thanks, Layla. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Rich Torino. This is Jonathan Englert. We're the founders of Good and Fugly. And we're, like Layla said, we're going to go through a presentation that talks about how Good and Fugly came about, the things we've achieved so far, and what the future holds for us. So we'll get straight into it. I'll share my screen. Okay. So Jonathan and I have decades of experience between us of building sustainable businesses. In my case, I spent almost 12 years at GoGet Car Share, which was Australia's largest car share company. And I was a marketing director and head of customer experience. And when I started, there were 2,500 customers. And when I left, there was over 160,000. Now, what I loved about working at GoGet, besides the kind of seemingly daily new challenges as we scaled the business, was that the more successful the business was, the bigger the impact. And I left around just as the pandemic hit, and I was looking around at what I was going to do next. And whatever I did next, I really wanted to have that sense of purpose that I experienced at GoGet. And yeah, it was a pandemic time. My family and I were getting fruit and veg boxes delivered. And then around this time is when I found out the stats about food waste. And particularly that 25% of produce never leaves the farm because it's not pretty enough for the supermarkets. And as I was getting these fruit and veg boxes, I wondered, why couldn't these be filled with imperfects? I looked around. There was no one in Australia delivering imperfect boxes to your door. And then I looked internationally and saw that this was being done overseas, and in particular in the US and the UK being done really successfully. Some businesses there have a big impact on reducing food waste while creating these really successful businesses that are now worth $2 billion. And so I spoke to Jonathan about this idea of starting it up in Australia. It didn't take much convincing.
No, zero convincing.
Yeah,
on board right from the start.
Absolutely. And we started small, which is what I'd seen at GoGet, and then grow organically that way. Yeah, I think we started in a Kennard storage unit in the early days. But from the beginning, what we both wanted to do was create a brand with a promise that it was good for you, good for the planet, and good for farmers. And that is our kind of mantra throughout the whole business. So sorry, I'm having some trouble. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, so our purpose, the business is obviously tackling food waste. And besides the 25% of produce never leaving the farm, for aesthetic reasons, up to 1/3 of all produce, or all food produced in the world is either lost or wasted. And that results in up to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions, which is massive, and also much kind of bigger impact than things like flying, which was surprising to me. Yeah.
Can you make it a little bigger?
It's perfect. Sorry, guys. Okay.
It's all good.
This is perfect. We can see it really well.
Yep.
Can you see it? Well, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So Rich has outlined the food waste problem, which was staggering, is staggering. It's global. It's also hits us hard here at home. But we recognize that we've arrived at what I guess you could frame as a kind of good and fugly moment. And that good and fugly moment is the opportunity, and it's supported by really three pillars. The first pillar is that there has been an absolute, massive growth in e-commerce. It was supercharged obviously by the pandemic, but it's now become really a permanent change in the way that people shop. And the second point is that, and it's something that we knew from the years that we had worked with sustainable businesses, but that people crave to do good. And they are increasingly, and this has certainly happened in our, in our experience in the last 4 years, they increasingly are looking for brands, for products, for services that allow them to do good, allow them to make a difference, but that are easy and convenient. And then three, and this is something we've particularly noted in the last, I'd say, 2 years, and it's been a bit of a wind at the back of the good and fugly business and movement, is that people are facing an affordability crisis. Their, household budgets are squeezed, and people are searching for, ways to save money, to cut costs, but not really compromise on those other values, and also do well for themselves. I think that's about it on that slide. Okay.
And so what does our purpose in action look like? So a big core to our business is that we curate some boxes of fresh fugly fruit and veg and deliver them direct to customers' doors. And how that works is we speak to farmers every day to find out what kind of produce they have. And then we curate a box for the week for whether, it could be, depending on the size, we aim to have a box that's convenient for customers for the whole week, for their cooking. And, we'll have kind of staples like potatoes or onions, unless customer tells us they don't want those in there. But then we also try and put in like a hero veg or fruit. So, and sometimes things that people might not be very familiar with. One of the first ones we ever did was Romanesco, which is delicious.
And I called Rich up because I got the boxes, and I get the boxes, and I called him up and I was like, what is this vegetable? What am I supposed to do with it? And you told me it's basically cauliflower. It's also
delicious. It's delicious. Cauliflower, broccoli in between. And so we in all our boxes we provide a recipe to give people inspiration on ideas on how to cook the fruit and veg. And so the customer chooses their box, the size, the type, is it fruit and veg only, or fruit box, and then the frequency, whether that's weekly or fortnightly subscription. And then with our delivery partners, we deliver the box to your door.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really stands out in this whole process, and it's been fantastic for us to discover this, but people love the surprise and the delight, and also, also the certainty of certain staple products, right? But I think a key too is the freshness, right? We get that constantly. So things that are in our boxes could have been picked yesterday. That's right. And that's just not typically, it's pretty much not possible in the supermarket world. Where you're just not going to find that.
That's right. Yeah. And so those fruit and veg boxes, like I said, are the core to our business, but the future is us moving beyond the box. And we've already started that process where end of last year, or near the end of last year, we introduced Fugly Extras, which are pantry products, got eggs, plant-based milks, coffee, peanut butter, raw honey. And the idea with those is to increase the convenience for customers while being affordable, and also adding higher margin to our boxes. So it doesn't cost us any extra to put in a dozen eggs into a box, and so that margin goes straight to our bottom line.
Yeah, and it also goes to the affordability piece, right? Because the longer you can push off as a family, or frankly anyone, a supermarket shop, and eat deliciously, eat well, the more money you're going to save as well.
Yeah.
And I think also on the you brought up honey. I think we're 4 years into this, right? But we're really just at the beginning of cracking, all of the ways that you can fight food waste. And the honey is a great example of that. One of our farmers, Aiden and Mishi, came to us. They do our ginger, but they came to us and they said, hey, look, we grow honey, but we have a problem. And we didn't know that there was a basically general problem across honey, which is crystallization. And I think Rich usually described it the best because I struggle.
Oh yeah, so because it's raw organic honey, it crystallizes, which means it goes a little bit hard, and so supermarkets won't stock it. Whereas all you do is with a teaspoon, give it a bit of a swell, and then it's perfect. And so we've been able to save that from going to waste, pay Aiden and Mishi for something that was otherwise going to be wasted, and maintain that affordability for us as a business, but then and also our customers.
Yeah, and we have the platform to educate our customers, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that later, but I mean, that's an important part of this. And so that means there are lots of markets, right? There's almost a universe of food waste fighting products, I suppose.
Yeah, and sorry, just with the ginger that you mentioned from those growers, this just shows the ridiculousness of the food waste problem sometimes, which is the supermarkets will only take a certain size of ginger, and so they reject all the smaller ones, which the ginger ends up in the supermarket. And what do customers do? They snap off exactly what they need into much smaller pieces. But anyway,
and frankly, I'm just going to say one more thing on that. It goes without saying, but how much of our fruit and veg typically do we need to put on some kind of platter and make a museum piece out of? Very little, right?
Yeah.
And yet these aesthetic standards run through pretty much all of it.
Yeah.
Silly.
But yeah, and so that's the pantry items, rescuing other types of pantry items. But then beyond the box is our own branded products. So it could be sauces, pickles, jams, etc. And we're on a process to that. We've already done a pilot, which came about probably a couple of years ago now, where a grower down in Swan Hill in Victoria, Paul, found us online, called us up and said, like he was kind of desperate because a storm had gone through and damaged a whole patch of peaches. And we ended up taking as many peaches as we could. And these peaches were perfect except for some slight hail damage on the skin. Yes. We took as much as we could. Our customers had a lot of peaches in their boxes for a few weeks, but we couldn't take everything. And we thought we never want to be in that position again we want to be in the position where, something like that, next time that happens, that we can take it all. Now, we could do it a lot of it through our fruit and veg boxes, but then it was like, how else can we use up this fruit? Yeah. And so then the next time it happened, we'd had a partnership with an organisation called Cornersmith, who are kind of food waste warriors, all about reducing food waste in the home. They make pickles, jams, etc. And so we had a grower who had blood oranges. They were too small for the supermarkets. We took as many as we could and partnered with Cornersmith and made our first blood orange marmalade, co-branded marmalade, and it was fantastic. The feedback we got was super delicious and affordable. Now, so that's the pilot for what we're going to do after this race.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? It's like we're not just talking quantity of fruit and veg, right? It's like the quality of it. Mm-hmm. Those peaches, honestly, they were the best that I'd ever had. Lots of people said the same. And it's like, how do you capture that value, right? Put it into a product that raises the value, but it's affordable. And I think that's really what lies ahead.
Yeah. Now, and the other thing with Beyond the Box is that those products will be able to extend our reach. So the fruit and veg boxes are kind of limited by where we've got warehouses located. However, these Beyond the Box products will be able to deliver all over the country and internationally as well. So the opportunity is massive. Now, since the last raise, we've done quite well. Revenue's grown almost 3 times, and our run rate is currently at 4 million per annum. We've also managed to grow our farmer network by 5 times by dealing with more and more farmers directly. But then also we've recently been working with wholesalers as well. So other organic wholesalers, but then in particular, or a particular example I'd like to share is with an apple grower or apple wholesaler it's one of the largest apple wholesalers in the country who supply to all the major chains. And they have massive amounts of waste because proportion of their apples don't meet the specs of any of the chains. And so we're able to buy that produce that was going to go to waste, that's affordable for us and our customers, and also help solve a food waste problem that this wholesaler has.
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying, this is part of this discovery process, right? Because when we were initially touring their facility, which is massive, they have technology, AI, that can and cameras that are constantly taking pictures of the fruit, and basically they're trying to screen out waste, and they still have a problem. And it just suggests that this is not the food waste issues. This is not going away anytime soon, and it needs help solving it.
Yeah. And since the last raise, we've also sold over 100,000 boxes, and that has come about because before the last raise, we were only delivering in Sydney, and we went and big reason for the raise was to be able to expand into Victoria. So we launched in Melbourne, but we've also launched in Brisbane and also some other cities, and in Queensland, we're delivering to Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, New South Wales, it's Wollongong, Central Coast and Blue Mountains. And in Victoria, we're also delivering to Mornington Peninsula and Geelong. And this has really spurred the growth of the business. And all of this, the revenue growth has been underpinned by the fact that 80% of our revenue is monthly recurring revenue, which comes from our weekly and fortnightly subscription boxes. And this has all led as well to us fulfilling our promise of reducing food waste, and we've saved over 950,000 kilos of produce from going to waste.
And look, key to our purpose is raising awareness, right? We want to move the needle on this food waste debate. And so we've been doing, we've since the beginning, we have been hitting media hard and raising that awareness through a range of channels. You can see, a lot of top tier, TV, print, etc. Now, we do this in a number of ways. We get a lot of inbound, frankly. A lot of media is just simply interested in what we do, and that's oftentimes around the unique factor, rescuing fuglies, and delivering them to homes, and the consumer side, right, the affordability stuff. But we also do proactive pieces, and one of the pieces that we're most proud of, I think I can say it for both of us, is in the top left corner there, that Guardian article. That Guardian article was the result of us effectively a year-long development process on research that we did. Now, the research was the relationship, focused on the relationship between supermarkets and farmers. And it came about because we were hearing absolutely horrendous stories from our farmers about how they were oftentimes treated commercially by the supermarkets. And some of them were so ridiculous, that we were like, we've got to do something. We got to do some research around this. Yeah. And I think the findings were even worse. actually.
Yeah, so one particular story farmers had told us was, there's the produce that never leaves the farm because they know it just won't be accepted by supermarkets. But the other problem is there are times when they'll deliver what the supermarkets have ordered. But if demand has changed for the supermarkets, they'll reject it once the farmers delivered it. And the ways they reject it is they'll look around, find a fugly in the delivery, and then just reject the whole delivery. Now, that's the story we were told and wanted to verify, and it was verified. But one that really shocked us was that up to 20% of farmers say that the supermarkets then expect the farmers to hand over the whole delivery for free. Now, the farmers are in a total bind because it costs them money to then take the produce back to their farm or to a tip or wherever. And so a lot of times they just hand it over. And so that was groundbreaking for us. And one of the things is that a lot of the farmers, but then a lot of other partners, which we'll talk about in a minute, are too scared to talk about this because their livelihoods depend on it. And so we're positioning ourselves to be able to be a voice.
Voiceless.
For the voiceless.
It's true. And I think, a big part of what we do, right, is the proactive awareness raising, which serves two purposes, right? I mean, obviously it serves the purpose of just making food waste and the farmers' plight an issue. But it also has obviously commercial benefits for us because the bigger we grow our business, the more impact we have, but this raises that profile. So there are two other initiatives that are worth mentioning. We launched the 1-300 hotline, 1-300-000.
Yeah. Fugly hotline.
Fugly hotline. And that's for farmers to reach us. Because part of it is education, right? Right from the early days, like farmers, when your first days, they were like, why would you buy this?
Yeah, more than that, it was a lot of farmers were like, I don't bother bringing this to markets or anything anymore because it never gets bought.
Yeah. So we want, so we reached out to sort of let the market know, let farmers know that we're here to do that. And the other main one in 2023 was our main media initiative was the search for Australia's fuggliest fruit and veg, because we believe we want to raise the status of our fugglies, let people know that they're delicious, maybe even more delicious, more fresher than what's out there. And the response to that was enormous. We got so many entries. They were great. In the end, a primary school community garden won for their fuggliest veg. And it was just what's that?
Oh, we got lots of press.
Yeah, we got a lot of press for it. And also, I mean, I think Nutrition Australia was happy with that result as well, because not enough people eat fruit and veg. Now, beyond that, we get a fair bit of inbound media, as I said. We also have a very active community that we curate, just like our boxes. 40,000 followers on social, and a newsletter that goes to 35,000. Very, very strong response, 40% open rates. And we use these platforms just to continue to communicate, bring more people into the sort of fugly movement, and raise awareness. And it's been very, very effective. And they also can serve as channels for other commercial development that we've talked about. And I think this slide excites me for a number of reasons. I think the key here is that Rich and I have been across a lot of brands in our careers, and I can say, sort of hand on heart, this fugly heart, that honestly, like the draw that Good and Fugly has for commercial, corporate partners, NGOs, education, academia is very, very strong. I would say probably, 2 times a month, we get an unsolicited inbound request from an organization saying, hey, can we partner up with you? I think I've thought about why this is, and we've talked a lot about it. I think it's because we can sometimes say things or do things that others can't, and they're happy to align with sort of what they see as a sort of a fun and a positive response to a big environmental and sort of social problem. And just taking a look at some of these partners, KPMG there has been a longstanding partner of ours on the corporate side.
That's right. Yeah, so KPMG came to us over a year ago now to provide their officers with fruit. And it was their sustainability team that was driving it, which they're very active. And obviously there's ESG benefits to the business. And so we provide them with over 400 kilos a month of fruit. And it's a great model for other clients, which I'll talk about in a sec.
Yeah, I mean, in some senses, like our box is being delivered like a box tick for ESG, but I think it goes beyond that. There's an education for the employees in terms of wellness with our recipes and our webinars and what have you. But then you can see, like Medibank, for example, at the end of last year, Medibank came to us and they said, hey, we would love you to, reach out on the consumer side. Now that's grown now into the corporate side as well. And that's been a really fruitful partnership, no pun intended, sorry. But then there are others there too, right? Like TEDx Sydney, we partnered with them at their events to give, fruit and veg. And one of our strengths is we can give fugly fruit and veg to support good causes. Coast Trek is another one we've been with for a number of years. But I think the key here is that these partner networks are doing two things. They're raising that awareness. They're making, that the movement aspect, but they also are giving us commercial channels that we are really, really eager to develop.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, so the future. So our vision is a national lifestyle brand that combines strong revenue and big social impact. Well, staying true to our promise of what's good for you, that Good and Fugly. If anything you buy from Good and Fugly is good for you, good for the planet, and good for farmers, or good for the people that make it, that particular product. And so the funds from this raise will go towards kind of these 5 key areas. First one is expanding our reach, so extending the reach to another 7 million people across ACT, New South Wales, Queensland, and Victoria. And so in the immediate future, we'll be able to deliver to the whole of Queensland, the whole of New South Wales, Victoria, and ACT. And not only that, we'll be able to service our existing areas better as well. So, and by that, I specifically mean for, say, places like Geelong, we'll be able to deliver more days a week to those areas. The next area is box optimization, and that's includes the Fugly Extras that I mentioned earlier for the kind of pantry items. So that's leveraging our reach to sell these aligned kind of higher margin products. But then it's also optimizing the kind of boxes we do. So we'll be doing organic boxes, like purely organic boxes, and potentially other kind of specialized, maybe herb boxes, etc. The other area of focus is on the B2B side of the business, which is a small but significant part of our revenue at the moment. But there's a lot of opportunity there. As we mentioned with the KPMG model. And similarly to partners, all of this has been inbound. We haven't been proactive in chasing the B2B side of the business just yet. But we're delivering to after-school care, and then normal fruit boxes to officers. And so part of this raise will be to bring the resources into the business to be able to focus and really push this side of the business. And we've got the models, like the case studies there with KPMG, Monash University for the university kind of use cases. And we're really, really going to push that in the coming year. Then the fourth area is moving beyond the box. So this is where we're going to develop and deliver the value-added products from imperfect produce. So we'll multiply our impact, expand our customer reach, but then also for our customers, it'll be increase their affordability and convenience. And for us, we'll add margin and be able to extend our kind of marketplace to beyond our fruit and veg box delivery, but to nationally and internationally as well. And then finally, it's organizational maturity as we expand. So we need to expand the team and solidify the operational effectiveness and efficiency as we support our growth. And like that's key because there's so much to do and there's so much opportunity, but we need to make sure we've got the right people in the right roles. So yeah,
I think
that's
we're
it.
good. Yeah, I think that's all from us, and we're really looking forward to your questions. If we can get to,
Thank you. We got a lot of questions already.
we need to, hang on, we'll find a way to get, moving
Just
on.
photo of the screen.
There's a half carrot and hang on a second, guys. Sorry about that.
Get rid of this.
Maybe we'll just get rid of the slides. How about that?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay.
Thank you. I love that you mentioned, I think it was right in the beginning of the webinar, the more successful the company is, the bigger it is its impact. And hence why you're raising. And I love that we have the opportunity to raise capital from the community so people can support companies and ideas that they actually believe, which is what we do every day at Birchal. So I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, can I actually just say, because I think it's worth, we didn't get that in there, but a key thing, and thanks for bringing that up, Leila. A key thing is what we kind of call the triangle, the sustainability triangle, and we saw this in action particularly in GoGet. But effectively, people can go out into the world, right, and see a big problem and want to solve it, and that's great. But we saw so many idealistic projects and initiatives, for example, in car share, kind of begin strongly, get a lot of buzz and what have you, but then not sustain because they didn't have some of this key elements of the triangle. You usually describe it pretty well.
Yeah, which is I think for any kind of for purpose product, it's got to be at least as and sustainable product, it's got to be at least as affordable and as convenient as the alternative.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have those, then you're not going to be able to scale and have the true, like really true impact that
Yeah.
you.
And not reinventing the wheel as well, right? It's a simple idea that makes so much sense.
That's right. It's not reinvent, and the thing is, when people ask about our values and what have you, it's like the value is built into the business model, right? You expand that, you build the business, the value and impact is happening.
So since you mentioned that, we actually had a question about that. So Gina asked, can you guarantee that you're always going to stick with the values that you have started with, looking after the struggling farmers, stopping the waste, and not introducing products outside of this?
Absolutely, it's the core of what we do, and we started it with that purpose of being able to build a sustainable business that is true to its values, that's ethical, and the people that work here join us because of that, and we're committed to it, and we think it makes commercial sense as well, even just from the fact that people are attracted to the brand because of that. And if we were to break that promise, that would be, not great for the business.
Yeah. I wanted to just say something because Rich can't say this about himself, but back in the Kennards days when we were packing in a little, in the shed, I won't go into the details, but Rich is exacting in curating the boxes, right? So curating the experience, and I feel like one of Rich's great strengths is curating the values, the brand, the things that we do and do not do, if that makes sense. So those guardrails that I think are really being asked about, that's what, knowing this is what we do not do, right, is very, very important as much as what we do, and informing that. And again, to what I said earlier too, it's built into the business model, right? In a sense, like you go off you go outside of those guardrails, in a sense, your business model will start suffering as well, and the impact will obviously suffer. So it's a great question because it's super important, right?
Yeah. Interesting that you mentioned that people that are working with you guys, they're working with you because they're passionate about it. And now we're seeing a whole new group of investors that want to invest because of that. So they could be saying, yeah, you know what, you have a great revenue, you're growing a lot, and that's what it matters. But instead they're asking, cool, are you going to keep growing in the way that you're growing now? However, being loyal to the brand and to everything that you mentioned before. So it's good to see.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of calls to EOIs, and I had an accountant tell me, he goes, you know what, I'm into numbers. He goes, but actually the numbers in this case, to me, don't matter as much as the mission and then the people behind it, that they're going to be kind of true to the mission.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really funny to hear from an accountant, but also heartening.
Yeah, for one accountant, it's quite unusual.
Yeah.
Cool. Next question. What are your plans to roll out in regionally, not just in the bigger areas?
Yeah, so we just started to partner with a delivery partner who has national coverage. And so we're opening up to all those regional areas in the 3 states and in the ACT immediately, and then, in the very near future. And then once we've bedded that down, we'll look at expanding across the country as
I
well.
just realized that dropped out of our slide. That was we tripled our delivery footprint, and we're expanding.
Right.
This raise is going to help us accelerate that expansion to 21.5 million Australians.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, next question. How does this differ from businesses like Box TV or Divey?
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing this correctly?
Yeah, so there's lots of fruit and veg boxes. The difference is, I guess, our purpose, which is about tackling food waste. So it's obviously the produce that gets rejected by the supermarkets. And another thing is, look, it's something that I found when I personally was getting, my family was getting fruit and veg boxes, which is we would get a box of fruit and veg that would just be packed with fruit and veg, which was great. So much so that we couldn't get through a whole week or even 2 weeks. And so we ended up having to throw out like 50% of the boxes. And what that did was make us stop buying fruit and veg boxes. And so the way we've curated ours is to kind of make sure, to not do that. So we want to make sure that someone's got enough fruit and veg for a week, sometimes 2. But we try and keep it tight and reduce waste.
Right, and the way to, I mean, look, over time, right? You want a closer hand in glove fit, right? And that obviously suggests things like your customization, etc. And so all of that is a key element, figuring out how people use food, because what you don't want is food waste guilt. And so that part of it is our recipes. Part of it, we also teach people sort of how to use it. And a lot of people come back to us and they're using their food.
And and the other thing is that this kind of the strategic priority of moving beyond the box will also differentiate us from the normal fruit and veg boxes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it is worth saying that in some of the commercial discussions we've had over time, over the last 4 years, we've learned a lot about the stickiness of the relative stickiness of purpose-built fruit and veg boxes, which is surprised us. Meaning that with purpose, there's people really,
committed to the brand.
They're committed to the brand.
Yeah, interesting. Next question. Martin is asking, this is a great question. Obviously, they understand that the size and appearance can change, but which type of technical expertise do you have to make sure that this is safe to be consumed?
Well, it's a good question. I'm getting tangled in a cord here.
And the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all the processes are the same for any other fruit and veg that you purchase. We don't do anything to the fruit and veg. We get it from our farmers, and then we pack it, and that's it. There's no cutting of fruit or veg at all.
Thank you. Can you explain the model you use for your delivery drivers?
So there's a couple. So we have partnered with, in the early days it was us, and then realized that that's a lot of headache and kind of just a whole other business really is in delivering things. But we partnered with a business called Scootopia, who they have lots and lots of drivers who were actually in the same building as us, or the businesses, and they things that get broken up into runs, and the drivers take it. However, and they've been great up until now. Well, not up until now, they've been great. But to extend our reach, we're moving to this national provider that I mentioned, which has hundreds of trucks driving around the country to be able to give us that reach that we need to grow.
That sounds great.
Yeah, we get so much inbound from places like regional Australia and Perth. We hear you. That we were eager to get there and do what we have to get there.
Awesome. Next question. What do you do if you buy more fruit and veggie that you can sell? Do you donate? Do you send to food banks? What do you do?
So since the very early days, because the first few weeks there was food waste, a little bit of food waste, but I'd take it to there's a refugee organisation just here in Sydney, but then they couldn't handle the amount that we were taking. So very early on, had an arrangement with Oz Harvest, who'd come and collect it from our shed in the Kennards unit, and then we just happened to move to
This location
this place
right here. Yep.
And Oz Harvest is literally our loading dock is 10 meters from theirs. So at the end of each day, we take over a pallet of any produce that's left over. And the feedback we've gotten from them, even like from the early days, is that the stuff we're giving is so fresh, kind of fresher than anything else that they've been given.
Awesome. Next question. What does your current customer retainment looks like?
Yeah, so look, our retention is nationally about 55%, close to 60, between 55 and 60, which is good, I think, but obviously there's room for improvement. But we've done this kind of comparative kind of research where there's a study, the only information we could get was from the US, where they did a study on retention rates for things like meal kits, so kind of HelloFresh, Marley Spoons, versus imperfect produce boxes. And what they found was that the retention rate for the meal kits, annual retention rate was 12%, and that for the imperfect produce was 33%. So we're doing okay.
Wow.
55, but there's all, we're always trying to improve it.
If you had answered 30%, I would say that's quite good based on what I see in the market and based on the companies that we normally work with. That's quite impressive. Are you familiar with a business called Fruit in a Box? There's an investor saying any plans to partner with them, they deliver fruit to offices. So I'm gonna leave this idea with the guys. I'll send you after the webinar. I'll send his name as well so you can have a look.
Thank you.
That'd be great.
Cool. Next question. How can you improve? And are there plans to improve the price to households as time that the price of the delivery fruit and veggies is considerably higher than buying from supermarkets? I think this is a good point for you to touch on because we had a few conversations about that. And one of your value prep is that the prices are better than the supermarket price. So can we clarify that?
Yeah, can I just say, could you just repeat that first part of the question as well?
How can you improve? And are there any plans to improve the price to households?
Oh, the price to households. Okay, yeah. So I think there are two parts to that question. I feel like, but you go.
Yeah. So look, we do the price comparison with supermarkets very regularly, and we do come out up to between 20 and 30% cheaper when you include things like delivery, etc. And we're always trying to keep prices down. And obviously the last couple of years with fuel prices, etc., going up, we've kind of incurred more costs, but we've really tried to keep that down as low as possible. And the other thing we're doing is, as we extend our grower network, we're able to access kind of cheaper produce as well, while still paying farmers for stuff that they would otherwise not get paid for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the maybe unspoken, or maybe I'm reading into that question, but it's also about listening to the customers and making sure that experience is really there. And I will say the feedback we're getting back is the affordability piece is pretty strong. They love the freshness and want more choice. And so these are all things that are really critical parts, you know, of our roadmap.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's just.
Yeah, and then the other thing with the fugly extras and things is as we rescue more and more produce, we'll be able to add kind of more value to the boxes as well for
Yeah.
for customers.
Exactly. I was going to add that exactly the point, which is that we have that room in the box from if you think about it from a delivery cost point of view, to add more value, and then we know that they can extend the life of their box, and that just saves money beyond which it's hard to quantify the amount of money that would save beyond that fruit and veg part. Yeah.
We had a question here that most of it is going to be answered in the offer doc, but I'm just going to read it out and I can answer partial of the.
Okay.
So are you cash flow positive? If not, when? The use of funds from this raise, existing ownership structure, and the amount invested in the business so far. So all of this information you're going to have access to in the offer document. This is going to be available to you before you make any decision into whether you're going to invest or not. But we're working on that now in the expression of interest phase. We are, if you are already in the EOI list, you can invest before anyone else and have access to this information before anyone else as well. Would you like to touch base on the amount invested in the business so far? Obviously, this is your second raise, so you raised with Birchal before. I think we can talk about that.
Yep.
Can I just say one thing before you jump in that, and that is, I think both Rich and I come out of the tradition of running things quite lean and being very, I think, you know, there's almost a sense of, you know, I wouldn't say frugality, that's not the right word, but I mean, we care about costs and expenses. So we have not, you know, just thrown tremendous amount of funds into this business. It is, and gone a long way.
So we, in the early days, we kind of bootstrapped the business between us, and so we combined invested over the course of probably 2 years. It was $90,000 into the business, and then in the raise, last virtual raise, we raised 500,000, and that's all. That's the only investment we've had in the business at this stage.
Thank you. Louisa is asking, it's a double question. Which kind of pesticides are used in the produce? And what are the standard farming practices that they have to adhere to?
Can I just say something on that? But just, I think that that's a great question to give a bit of a framework around first, because I feel like organic is sort of right behind the idea of organic produce is right behind that question. And it's important to note that I think, well, you probably more on this, but that the standards are quite interesting around organic. And so you can not be organic very easily with even minimal use of pesticides. But we talked a lot about this.
John's a great politician answering a different question.
I'm not, but I think organic is right there. But I know you're going to answer the right question.
So we, in the early days, when we started, we had people who, you know, asking us about the miles of, you know, was it delivery miles of our produce, like how local are our growers, etc. Is it organic? Is it pesticide free? And what we came to is that the food waste problem is so big, in like conventional food waste or conventional fruit and veg, the food waste problem is so big that that's what our focus should be. And we focus on, you know, we've had tomatoes from Queensland who, like, tons of tomatoes that were going to be thrown out, but we had in the early days, delivered to us here in Sydney so that it wouldn't go to waste. Now that's been our entire focus. With regards to pesticides, we've got a lot of local growers who technically they're not pesticide free because they put pesticides, I think it's on their capsicum, but that's it, because there's a particular bug that if they didn't, it would kill the crop. And so the short answer is our stuff isn't 100% pesticide free. We don't guarantee it because we can't put our hand on our heart to say that it is.
Yeah, but the reason for that, and that's why I was trying to get at the question's a sticky one, and because the food waste problem, right, in Australia in particular is largely not about, organics, right? And we
Well-
were trying to tackle that, but we also understand the demand for organics is big, and we want to encourage
and
that.
that's
So,
and that's
support that.
and to that point exactly is one of the things we're going to be doing in the next probably 6 months is launching our organic boxes. So purely organic, whereas we do, I think I mentioned, we work with organic producers and organic wholesalers, but we don't say our boxes are organic because we can't guarantee that they all are. But we're working on being able to provide the customers that want organic produce with guarantee that what they're getting is organic.
Thank you. We had an investor saying, I actually find a Good and Fugly boxes to be always surprising and very cost effective. Supermarket are more expensive. I'm a chef. And for me, especially, it gets my creative juices flowing when I get the boxes from Good and Fugly. So thank
Thank you very much. It's awesome.
That's just a shout out. Well, thank you. Please, offline, if they could, if the chef can connect with me, Jonathan at goodandfugly.com.au, please do.
Yeah, I can send her contact details to you as well.
Would you? Yeah, that'd be great, because we're always looking for people. Like, we get excited. We were just watching TikTok this morning of someone doing an unboxing and just getting excited. We had and yeah, like we've heard stories of moms like and the kids waiting for the box and going and then discovering the fuggliest thing in it and bringing it to school the next day.
That's so cute.
It's just like there's a lot of that, and so yeah, it's part of building this community, right? We want people to engage. So yes, please connect us. That would be amazing.
We'll do. Bianca's asking, would you expand to having meat delivery?
Yeah, so look, it's on our roadmap, and not in the immediate future, but the kind of work we've got to do is, do we do that ourselves, or do we partner with someone whose values are aligned and do it that way? So it's definitely on the cards.
Yeah, this is a really good question as well. And I think it refers back to the kind of the Amazon business model where they have different states and just serve that states. So the question was, is there any intention to try and keep short supply chains? So Queensland produce just being sold to Queensland instead of shipping to Sydney.
Yep. And so we've started that. So we've got a warehouse in Sydney and we've got a warehouse in Melbourne as well. And so Melbourne, most of the produce there is coming from kind of local farms in Melbourne, and similar in Sydney. And so this is a great thing because this is where the values align with the commercials of the business. Delivering produce from one state, between say Sydney and Melbourne or Sydney and Brisbane is really expensive. So it makes sense for having kind of strategically placed distribution centers across our markets. So absolutely.
We had an investor saying that they love the concept and the product. She has tried it, and asking if the initial investors have received any return on the investment. I can answer that for you. This is a long-term investment. So obviously they're trying to grow a business. It's an early stage of the business. So once you invest in the company, you're kind of expecting a long term for that. So the shares are not liquid, so you cannot buy and share and sell at any given time. So if you have any questions about that, pop it in the Q&A box or send me an email at leila@birchal.com and I'll do my best to help you out. Next question. You said at one point that you often accept what the farmer has to give. How far in advance with the customer they can know what is coming to the box?
So as in our customers?
Yes.
Yeah. So we, each Friday, we post out what's likely to be in your box, what's likely to be in the boxes the following week. And on Monday as well, we'll email everyone to say this is what we're shipping this week. And it can change depending on availability. But we're also just about to turn on, we've been doing the work to offer customers the opportunity to customize their boxes more than they do now. So that's where a customer could say, the use case especially is for people that don't want to ever see a particular thing in their box. So you say, you know, I don't want potatoes, don't want bananas, etc. And then they also let us know what are the things they do like. So then we'll match that up with what's available and give them more of that and less of what they don't, or not what they don't want.
Yeah, and that's coming off of a lot of the feedback that we get a lot of this feedback, and we just want to keep meeting the customers where they are. And I think that is a big part of maybe our stickiness too,
Yeah.
is that we make a big thing about listening and how does this work in their lives?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's also a
Yeah.
way of, so, you know, some people are okay with and love the idea of having a kind of seasonal produce box and having the surprise of what might come in there. But to really scale the business, we need to allow customers to be able to choose what they want in their box.
No, exactly. And yeah, it's a key thing, right? And yeah, I mean, there are, yeah. And I think currently though, the interesting thing is too, though, we're finding that balance, right? With the surprise and because that's, I mean, we get a tremendous amount of feedback from people who say, maybe they expected, you know, that they were going to be doing this one way, but it's actually expanded their horizon. And that I think is part of the brand that's been exciting for a lot of people.
Yeah, we do have a lot of great questions here, and I want to keep going if you guys still have time.
Of course.
Yeah, sure.
We're supposed to finish now, but I don't think it's fair with anyone involved.
And also, just to make clear, you know, we're reaching out to everyone who's given me a phone number. I'm calling, and Rich is too, and so, you know, feel free to give me a call, you know, directly. I think
Awesome.
numbers out there, and just it's 0411-718-074. And just if you have a follow-up, I'm happy to hear it. You know, we really are about listening. So
We'll send the recording over in an email, and then maybe we can include in that email as well.
yeah, please.
You love this one. The investor is saying, I'm curious if you have any plans to pursue becoming a B Corp. And he said, you tick a lot of boxes, excuse the pun.
Yeah. We're so busy.
Yeah,
We're like a busy corp right now,
It's-
and we haven't been able to kind
It's
of,
absolutely. And it's just,
yeah.
like Jonathan said, a big part of this raise is getting more staff involved and into those key roles. And then, we're going to go through the process of becoming a B Corp for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. We had the question about investor rewards, and we were talking about this yesterday. Not sure if you have anything finalized, but do you want to touch base on some of the ideas that you're planning?
Sure. Can I say something? We're cooking up some interesting things.
Yeah.
Again, the puns. It's just living in the good and fugly universe. But we are, but we have some, I guess we're exploring right now.
Yeah. We don't have anything finalized at all, but we're working through it, and we'll let you know as soon as we do.
Can I potentially hint at it? So Layla's saying yes, hint at it. So as part of this roadmap, and we're talking about the future and beyond the box, we're going to be doing a lot of experimentation, and that experimentation is going to be in the form of products made from fuglies, and they're going to be delicious products, just like the Cornersmith marmalade, blood orange marmalade, and we're going to find a way to reward our investors with the chance of being the very happy guinea pigs in this experiment and getting, you know, first dibs on some of these products.
And free.
And what's that?
And you being able to try it for free.
Yeah, to try it for free. But that's a sort of a product lab idea. So there's going to be more detail on that soon. And also, exploring ways of giving other ways of giving back, because we were a magnet for a lot of inbound requests, even around food insecurity, for example, or schools. Rich had mentioned, you know, we've been helping out schools that don't get enough fruit and veg. The kids don't get enough fruit and veg. So we're exploring things around that as well.
Whereas Amanda, the chef, she's gonna love that. Cool. So I hope that answers the question, but if you haven't expressed interest yet, please go ahead and do it now so you can see the perks before anybody else. Lisa is asking, how do you offset the carbon emissions of your delivery?
Yep. So we've got through our kind of software of the website, basically it's Shopify website. We've got an app on there that's connected that we pay kind of, I don't know how much is exactly, a few cents a delivery to offset kind of that last mile of delivery. We haven't offset yet the delivery from farmers to us, but we're working on it.
Yeah. We had a question saying, you mentioned much of the business is built on education and awareness. How would you rate the importance of profitability? And do you have a marketing master plan? There's a few questions in one.
Yeah. Sorry, could you repeat it for me? Just
Yeah, I'm a bit confused as well. You mentioned that the business is built on education. How would you rate the importance of profitability? And do you have a marketing master plan? I think we can focus on the marketing. So plans moving forward, what are you aiming to?
I mean, in terms of profitability, I will just say that we're all aligned in this idea that the business model, right, to have the impact, to do the education, has to be sustainable as a business.
Yeah.
So profitability is, you know, a sort of the guiding light that we're heading towards, right?
Yeah. And it's
yeah.
So you know, we've got our forecast, which Birchal has told us we're not allowed to talk about. And
I got the memo.
that's all right. And kind of we're on the road to profitability, but we're not a profitable business yet, as we've been scaling very quickly. But yeah, it's key to achieving the success of the business, which we're working on. And regards to the marketing plan, master marketing plan, I'm not sure. I've been marketing for 20-something years, and master plans usually fall to pieces.
We have a structure. We have a strategic roadmap that's nimble, will adapt, is adaptable, I think.
Yeah, but like our marketing plan's working really well at the moment. In the last year, our cost per acquisition of customers has dropped 33% compared to the year before, which is fantastic. And yeah, as we scale as well, we're, obviously the kind of the rule is usually how you scale as you scale, the cost of acquiring a customer increases. At the moment, it's dropping for us. So it's just seeing, when that changes kind of thing. But yeah, we've got a few kind of marketing levers we work on right now, digital advertising being key one. But part of this raise is getting in more marketing resources, as in marketing person, to then be able to explore or to test other avenues of getting customers kind of more efficiently as well.
Yeah, like for example, we have influencers coming to us wanting to work.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole program probably to tap in there.
Yeah, we had two questions that are in the same space as well. So Gina is saying, as investors, do we have the opportunity to help out in marketing?
To help out.
100%. Yeah. So that's what our goal is, right? Is to have a community of advocates. I mean, on some of these calls, right, the people are saying, oh, I'm telling everybody about you. I'd love to, you're not even here yet. Like into some of these regional places, regional, and they're like, you're not here yet, but they want, so yes, sharing that, any ideas inbound, again, my number, like honestly, anything to help grow the movement.
Yeah.
And just sharing with investors as well, if this is your first time at Birchal, this is the reason why a lot of companies decide to come and do this round instead of going for a VC or a high net worth. I know that the guys are really well connected, so they could potentially get this money from just a few individuals, but they decide to go back to the community in order to get more ambassadors, more people knowing about the brand and kind of spread the word. Is that correct?
100% correct. Look, we've worked in spaces where we're trying to shift behavior, right? And shifting behavior over time is really, really hard. I mean, it takes time. And so the notion is you need a crowd, you need people to do that, to help, spread the word, see that there's another way, get excited about the fact that they're eating, they're fighting food waste while having these delightfully strange, vegetables and fruit show up. And they want to tell people about that.
Yeah.
There's another way, right? You don't have to just immediately go to the supermarket.
Yeah. would you consider brand ambassadors to advertise on TikTok and Instagram
100%.
and everything?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
Cool,
Definitely.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
look, I
that's-
mean, we're trying to transmit what our values are, right? We want investors and people to share those values, right? We want diversity in thinking and value, but that core value of trying to do something good here is what we want. Yeah.
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 Bianca's asking how much money you're hoping to raise. I can probably answer that. Now in the expression of interest is essentially a big marketing campaign. So we're going back to market, seeing what is the interest out there, collecting all the data, and we make decisions based on that. So we don't have these numbers finalized yet. We're working together in order to read out the data that you put, and then we make a decision before we open the offer. So again, it's super important that if you're interested, you put your expression of interest so we know which type of interest is out there, and then we make the best decisions. And I left this one last because I really wanted to touch base on this point. We talked a lot about the impact in the world and how it's more sustainable, is a better option. But I feel that we should touch base on the impact they have on farmers. Considering that the supermarkets often reject these fruits and veggies, 25% of their produce would be wasted, right? So that means that they will lose 25% of their potential revenue, the money that they rely on to support their families. So I was wondering, what is the feedback that we normally get from farmers? But then we got this. As farmers, we have supplied a Good and Fugly for a few years. We love working with them, and we feel proud to know that we are playing a bigger part in people accessing really good food. Sunny times honey.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you, guys.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
So that answers my question. I had this to the end. I was like, I really wonder what is the feedback from farmers. Now I know.
Well, that's great to hear. Yeah, no, that's really good. Thank you, guys. That's really wonderful.
That brings us to the end of the webinar. I hope this was super insightful for everyone. I definitely learned a lot. Thank you guys for taking the time to join us here and explain about the business. Thanks to all the potential investors. Again, Good and Fugly expression of interest is open now. You get more information of the company, you get priority investment, and you also get special conditions to invest. Any questions, please let us know. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Layla.